Yeah, obviously a great opportunity for the club to write ourselves in a bit of history in our first semi-final in the Open Cup, and to go out and give a good performance and hopefully, I guess, qualify. That's the end goal. But really excited for the opportunity. The US Open Cup, I've learned, has a lot of history in this country, and something that the team is really relishing for tomorrow, to go out there against Philly and kind of just make the most of the opportunity and bring us one step closer to some silverware.
Thanks, Patrick. We'll start with Corey, kind of go down the line. That's two of you.
Philly's really good, and you guys have fared really well against them this year. What about the matchup has been so good for you guys?
Yeah, I think we're a team with similar qualities. We both have had a good season so far, and we both play very direct, but also can play between the lines and create a lot of chances. And both high-scoring teams. You can see that when we played each other first, it was an eventful game, and obviously playing at home when we went down, it kind of changed the outcome of the game a little bit. But obviously a team that we're really excited to play, a team that we match up well against, but we know it's going to take everything to get a result. So, just really, really excited to see what they've got. But I think the most important thing for us is just worrying about the way we're gonna play, and hopefully, getting some goals, because that's what's going to win the game.
And usually in these games, BJ's got to manage the roster because you've got more games to play in the MLS.
Yeah.
What's the key when you've got so many new players on there, still being able to start fast?
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing. Also, I know in the Cup there's a smaller bench as well, so he's got to reduce the amount of matchday players. But I think as a club and as like a DNA, we've all got a very clear way in which we want to play. So it doesn't matter who's going to be on the field; they know what's expected of them, and if they're not, giving what is expected, you let them know. So it's important that everyone's aware of their role and studying and learning, what's ahead of us. And I'm very confident that whatever lineup he puts out tomorrow night, they'll do the job.
Steve?
You talk about balancing the various competitions you guys are in, but now you're this close. You're 2 wins away. How does the intensity change, and how much are you guys talking about the opportunity to make history, as you said?
Yeah, I feel like the further you go in kind of cups, it becomes less about performance, more about results. If you look at it like let's say an MLS league, you tend to, if you lose a game, it's okay. If you play well, but you lose a game, it's like you can take the positives out of it. Obviously, if we go out tomorrow night and have an unbelievable performance and don't get the result, it's irrelevant. So I guess it's about finding a fine line between results and performance. We're willing to do whatever it takes to get the results, whilst not compromising our performance. So I think it's about, like I said, just making sure we're walking that fine line in doing everything we can to win, but the Nashville way.
Some of the best environments at GEODIS Park over the years have come in some of these knockout-type matches. Tomorrow night you have the opportunity to punch a ticket to a final inside the castle. How much do you need to take advantage of your familiar surroundings and the crowd behind you?
It's a massive advantage being at home, and we've got to make the most of that. I think it'd be nice to see a really good turnout tomorrow night. GEODIS, when it's on, is an unbelievable stadium and an unbelievable atmosphere. I've really enjoyed the games where the crowd has really gotten involved and it's been intense, and you've seen the progression of the atmosphere as the season's gone on, which is great. But yeah, obviously having that home ground advantage is something that we need to use, and I'm really excited to see what the fans are going to give us tomorrow night, that 12th man kind of mentality.
Jacob?
Yeah, Patrick, when you came to MLS Nashville, how long did it take you to grasp maybe the importance in the history of the US Open Cup?
Yeah, obviously last year I didn't even know it was a thing, to be honest, because we didn't play in it. But as obviously this year's gone on, having missed out on the Leagues Cup, it just makes you realise how much more important it is for obviously the clubs that aren't involved in the Leagues Cup to have the opportunity to win some more silverware and be involved in a knockout tournament, because they're very exciting formats. The idea of if you lose, you're out is very thrilling, and obviously it's such an amazing opportunity for us as well to get our hands on not one silverware but also one of those CONCACAF allocations. So regardless of the location or the team we're versing, it's just like a massive opportunity to be in a semi-final. So that's something that's a privilege.
You come into this match having lost 4 of your last 5 in MLS. Do you kind of see this game as maybe a little bit of a blank slate with those maybe results in MLS not mattering as much?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, like I said earlier, it doesn't really matter about performance. The only thing that matters here is the result, and that's obviously coming into the end of the season. That is something that's very, very true. But like I said, it is a blank slate. Like you said, it is a blank slate in a sense. But we're going to go out there and try get the result we want whilst not compromising our performance. So, really, really looking forward to the opportunity, and it's going to be a fun game.
Patrick, last time you played against Philly here, you came out with about 90% over passing accuracy. I mean, that's kind of difficult, very difficult in any game, especially against a team like Philadelphia. What does it take to have a performance quite like that one?
Yeah, obviously, they're a good team. They high press. They're very aggressive. When they lose the ball, they're very quick to win it back, and they can put you under a lot of pressure. So, obviously, it's about being calm and kind of knowing where your next step is if you do win the ball and where you are on the field. But it's also about the team. The structure. You need to have players around you who are going to show for the ball and who are going to look for the ball when you have it as a midfielder, because it can get a little bit tight in there, especially with the players they have. Lukic is quite aggressive, and John Jarks as well, very, very aggressive midfielders. So yeah, it's just about staying calm and staying patient, and obviously trusting my ability on the ball. And obviously, if Eddie's there or Gaston's there, we have a good connection. So being able to find my kind of partner. So yeah, hopefully I can have another performance like that tomorrow night, because I was pretty pleased with that one the last time we versed Philly.
Now, you played just about any position there in the midfield. I think it's separate left flank. Expecting any switches for tomorrow if you started?
I don't know. We'll find out in training today. So if you guys are watching, then you'll see.
You've played with, you mentioned it right there, you've played with two different partners for most of the season. So starting off it was Eddie, and then later on was Gaston. Do you have to switch your game a little bit depending on your partner, and what does that switch look like?
Yes and no. Like, obviously, I like to play true to myself. That's what brought me here, and that's why I'm in this team. Obviously, clubs don't sign players because they're someone else. They sign them for you. So I think that's a kind of component to the way I think. I do trust my ability, and I trust, my style of playing. But obviously, when you do have someone like Eddie, who's just an absolute beast, like defensively, and like can win a lot of second balls, it gives you a bit more of a license to maybe get in the box and go forward. And as well with Gaston too, maybe it means I can take a little bit of a seat in terms of finding that final pass. If I know I can find him, then he has that kind of the vision and the time to kind of look in behind and play those killer balls. So obviously it's maybe rather than adjusting my style of play, it's playing to their strengths too. If I know Eddie can do a job, I can get in the box more. And obviously Gaston's still very good defensively. So yeah, it's fun playing with both of them. They're both great guys, great friends, and great players. So yeah.
And then you went to Australia and New Zealand, and had to travel back all the way to the United States, very short time period. What is that toll on you physically, and then what are you doing to kind of improve that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can get a little bit blocked up. Like, that's what happens when you sit 15 hours in a can in the air. So yeah, like it's like 30 hours door to door, really, when you travel back and forth. And if you look at, I was saying to my girlfriend yesterday, I think I've spent more time in a plane than in my own house, like the last, 2 weeks. So it's okay. Obviously, I'm used to it. I stress to the coaches that I'm completely fine to play. It's something that I've kind of had to deal with the last few years playing national team football. So it is a lot, but I know what it takes: sauna, recovery, massages. It's just about making sure that I'm ready to go. And touch wood, I'm 23, pretty young. I back my body to be able to recover. And yeah, it's obviously they can be a little bit, I'm not going to say conservative, but a little bit less kind of used to the load, and they're just trying to manage my body when it comes to going back and forth. But from my perspective, the expectation is I'm always ready to play, whether I've travelled 50 hours or 0. So.
But
Yeah, you just mentioned you're 23. You've obviously been in Nashville for a little over a year now. It feels like you've kind of taken on something of a leadership role in the team. I guess what has that been like? And ahead of a game like Philadelphia, what are you kind of trying to maybe example or model for everybody else?
Yeah, obviously I've tried to grow different aspects of my game, and that's one aspect that I've been trying to grow, my leadership qualities, I guess, and had the honour of being the captain against Aston Villa in the second half, which was nice. So that was a cool opportunity. But obviously, when BJ talks to us, he's kind of addressing the leaders in the room sometimes, saying like, you know, what are you guys going to bring to the table? And I guess for me, I don't have as much experience as maybe the other leaders, but I think in terms of my personality, I'm pretty out there, pretty outgoing, and I like to be able to kind of drive the boys when it can get a little bit more, you know, scary at times, a bit more uncertain. So I think going into the game, I've just got to draw back on my performances against Philly last time. I had 2 good performances. I like to feel like I contributed well in those games. And obviously for me, it's a no regrets kind of mentality. I just want to go into the game with no regrets and come out of it, you know, with a positive mindset. So if I can kind of be infectious with that amongst the team, that'll be good. And obviously give ourselves every chance of just having, you know, the most confident and unbreakable kind of camaraderie and mentality, because I think that's what I kind of give off to the group, and hopefully it kind of reflects in the performance.
And then I know BJ has kind of come in and instilled kind of like a top-down vision of what he wants the club, Huntsville, the academy, everything to look like, but ultimately like winning silverware is kind of at the top of that. Just how important is it to kind of validate all the work that's gone on over the last year?
Yeah, like, you know, you can do so much work behind the scenes, but none of it is obviously validated and none of it is justified without results. You know, you need to get 3 points, you need to be winning, you need to get winning silverware. So obviously if you look at where we've come from, you know, I was here, you know, during the lowest part of the club. If you look where we've come from, it's been amazing to see the growth of the club, but obviously, you know, who's to say we can't continue to grow further than what was expected right now, you know, which is a massive honour and a massive achievement to this day. But yeah, like you said, we need to be getting results, we need to be winning games, we need to be winning silverware. So that's the main objective right now to the end of the season, whether it's as little to as, you know, 10, 12, 13 games left. So that's pretty much what our mentality is right now.
Anything else?
Good. You talked about the difference between Gaston and
Eddie.
Eddie. How much more offensive are you guys with Gaston in the game? I mean, how much does he bring to that?
Yeah, he's a quality player. You know, he's got this like unbelievable wand of a right foot, and he really like you saw it, I think, in the Cincinnati game. That's probably in my opinion, the best I've seen him play. He was just absolutely pulling strings. But obviously it depends on the opposition too. You know, some teams might sit in the block and they're going to really like make it difficult for us to find balls in behind and find key passes, and that might change things. But obviously when he's on the pitch, it does add an element of, you know, I'm going to say surprise or a bit more directness, because he can take those risks and put him in behind, which is something that I'm trying to work on as well, and something Eddie's trying to incorporate in his game. But like I said, everyone has their strengths, and one of his strengths is definitely you know, balls in behind.
All good?
All right,
thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.